sounds and some sounds with my hands like that sort of thing. You know, finger rubbing, that kind of stuff. Before I get started, big shout out to ASMR Chink Daddy. ASMR Chink Daddy's been following my channel for a long time, as have a lot of you, so a big shout out to ASMR Chink Daddy, and a big shout out to all of you as well, okay? So, here we go. So when I was a teenager, I used to make my own ASMR recordings. I had a big reel-to-reel, and it was a Panasonic Stereo 2-channel reel-to-reel, and I had 2 microphones, and I had a big set of headphones, a big boxy kind, you know, and late at night I would get up at around maybe 11:30 on a school night, and I would just sit in front of my tape recorder with a microphone in front of my face, and I would just go, I'd make these noises like, that kind of stuff, just these mouth sounds. And then I would do that for, you know, several minutes, maybe 10-15 minutes. And then I put the headphones on and I would listen to it. But unfortunately, it never seemed to have the same effect as if I was listening to somebody else. It's kind of like when somebody tickles you, you know, you really notice that it's more of a sensation opposed to trying to tickle yourself, you know, it's just not quite the same. So it was kind of like that. So I used to make those kind of tapes a lot, but it was relaxing to a point, but not as much as if I was listening to somebody else. So anyways, this is what I kind of used to do, a lot of this. Sorry about that. I bumped my microphone. That's not very good. Not at all. Okay, so we'll just go like that. Just rub my hands together. Now I want to tell you about my neighbor. I had a neighbor next door to me in Saskatoon. His name was Monty. Monty was 3 years older than me. For instance, when I was 8, he was 11, obviously. And I was in grade 1, he was in grade 4. But he was a nice guy. We got along very well. And he had friends his age, but you know, him and I related on different levels. He was very much into, at that age, is very much into, you know, secret agent stuff, you know, like James Bond. And there used to be a show called The Man from U.N.C.L.E. that used to come on. And it was about, you know, an organization called U.N.C.L.E., which was an acronym. Can't remember what it stood for, but Napoleon Solo and Ilya Kuryakin were the stars, played by Robert Vaughn and David McCullum. Anyways, it was a very exciting weekly show, black and white, I believe, but very state-of-the-art at the time, you know. And Monty really liked that show, and so did I, you know, it was very entertaining. But he took that kind of stuff very seriously. And he really liked, you know, secret agent stuff, and even the show Get Smart, he thought that was really cool, you know. Even though it was a comedy, to some degree, I think he took it seriously, you know. So, anyways, one time I'm at home, and like I said, I'm probably, you know, 8 or 9 years old at the time, and the phone rings and my mom answers, and she says, just a minute, so she gives me the phone, and I pick it up, I go, hello, and I hear this voice, Agent Martin, report to me at once. I knew it was Monty, you know. So I go to his house, no one's home except him. So I walk in, he's standing by the front end. He's got a pen, he's going, there's something very funny about this paper boy. You know, he's watching the paper boy, right? It was kind of hilarious. And to play along, I said, yeah, I noticed that, Monty. I think he's a new guy. You better keep an eye on him, you know, this kind of thing, right? But he took the whole, I don't know, spy thing to a whole new level. He really enjoyed that, you know. So next thing you know, it was Mumbles in the driveway with groceries. This is about 4:35, and thank goodness, because then I got to go home for supper. You know, but anyways, Monty was a good guy. But anyways, for Christmas actually quite good at it. It was one of those magic sets that came with a top hat and a cape and a big black magic wand, you know, and an assortment of tricks that a person could perform, you know, this kind of thing. And so he got quite good at it, and he would put on magic shows in his basement, and all these kids would come over and then they'd clap like this. They're just like, wow. And I have to admit, he did pull those tricks off very well. But he had this phrase. Now remember, back in the 60s, maybe a lot of you may not, but I think it came from Mary Poppins. It was supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It was a song, actually. Well, he had his own saying, and it was, and he would say this before he performed every trick. He would say, Sungai, mungai, alabala, bungai, chickalikalungai, see. That's what he would say. Now, I don't know if he made this phrase up or if he heard it somewhere, but he used to say it all the time, and here I am, like 60 years later, it's still stuck in my brain, you know. I'll say it once more. Sungai, mungai, alabala, bungai, chickalikalungai, see. And then he perform his magic. And it's so funny because I remember being at one of his shows. He wanted me to introduce him, and he put these blankets up as a curtain, and all the kids were sitting on his basement chairs and boxes, whatever. There's about maybe 10 of them, and he wanted me to introduce him as the great Monticello or something like that. You know, it was Monty, but something else like Monteverde or Monticello or something like that, you know. So I did. And then he comes out and he's got his hat and his cape and his wand. And you know, he performed some tricks and everyone's just dazzled, right? But you know, I say Sungai, mungai, alabala, bungai, chickalikalungai, see. But then he had added a bit of finesse, so he changed the C to set. And he'd say Sungai, mungai, alabala, bungai, chickalikalungai, set. Instead of C, just go set. And it sounded pretty cool, actually. But anyways, Monty was a great guy. He's still around. He came to my wedding in '83. Him and his wife live in Banff, Alberta. They live there during the summer. In the winter time, they go down to Mexico. They have a place in Mexico, and they winter down there. Now, I got Linda to cut my nails for me. So I'm just going to file them a little bit here. Get some of the jagged edges off. Just take some of those jagged edges off like that. So, switching gears here. In our yard, we have a big old apple tree, cherry tree, pear tree, and we have a peach tree planted ourselves. It's not very old, but considering how small it is, it's still, we call it our overachiever because it still yields some peaches, which is amazing. It's a skinny little stick that you get about 4 or 5 peaches off it per year. But the apple, cherry, and pear tree are very old. So when we pick the apples, I mean, they've been there for decades, all kind of gnarly and everything, but the apple tree really produces. And I mean, they're just falling off, and you run over with the lawnmower and whatever. A lot of them are worm-eaten, but there's always some good ones. When you pick an apple off the tree, it always has that coating on it. So if you take a rag and you shine it up like that, and you really rub it like that, it really shines the whole apple up because it's like some kind of a coating, almost like a translucent sort of powder, sort of like a waxy type coating on there. But if you go like that, it just shines it right up. And when we used to live in one snack I was always allowed to have was an apple. And I loved the Macintosh. I loved almost any kind of apple. My neighbors across the alley, this little girl, Debbie, her parents used to buy the Golden Delicious or the regular Delicious, you know. And my mom never bought those kind. But they were so good. I love those kind of apples. It's very tasty. Very juicy. I like my fruit at room temperature. When I first bought this out of the store, it was quite cold. I thought it might hurt my teeth, but it doesn't at all. It's very refreshing. Now, at the beginning of my videos, my introduction, a lot of people said, you know, what are you eating there? What's that chewing sound? That's the sound of an apple. That's what that is. Sound familiar? I want to do a caramel apple again. Probably told you this a dozen times, but I was all set to do a caramel apple video a while ago. I went to the store, the mall, pardon me, the mall, and there was about 5 stores closed, and that was one of them, because I couldn't find staff. I think it's called Rocky Mountain or something like that, but I noticed they have another store not too far from here. Very close, actually, much closer than the other place. So one of these days I'll buzz up there and I'll get a caramel apple or a couple of them. And I'll do a caramel apple video again. This is good. Wow. That was a big pop. If it's too loud, I can stand back here. Gotta spread it around. That's a big core. take those apple cores and finish them off. Gross, huh? But when you're a little kid, you don't know any better. I thought they were great. Get down to the nitty-gritty. Well, balance that apple core right there. With my hands off. This is kettle corn, Orville Redenbacher, sweet and salty. Then deny for a friend who makes her own kettle corn. I mean, it's easy to do, but she does a very good job. This is the dog's bowl. Oh man, that's good popcorn. I'd like to see my friend Monty again. He's invited me down to Mexico, me and Linda. Says we should come down and see him, but I figure right about now he's getting ready to come back to Canada. It's warming up here, it's springtime. He probably comes back around April, most people do. I have a buddy who goes to Costa Rica, and he goes down in October, comes back around April, thereabouts. They sure got some big tarantulas and spiders down in Costa Rica. Wow. Good popcorn. I love this kettle corn. It's a great invention. I love sweet and salty. I like the kind that are already soaked with the sugary stuff. A lot of glaze on them. Love that kind. Well, I could eat this all day. I'm getting very thirsty. So there it is. When I was eating that apple, I told you this many times before, but it reminds me of when the secretary was sitting in the staff room, and I was on my break, and she came in to eat this apple, and she was doing her best to crunch it slowly so not to bother anybody, but I was just saving every minute, and I wanted it to last forever. It was hard for me to get up from my break and go back to work after that. I was just so relaxed. Remember what he used to say? Sungai, mungai, alabala, bungai, chickalicalangai, see. I'm going to have to write my friend Monty and say, hey Monty, remember this? And I would say, I would write it out for him. I'm sure he'd remember, he'd probably get a chuckle out of it. But he'd probably wonder why would I remember that? You know, it's kind of funny. I always picture the human brain to be like a big room full of computers. And when I picture computers, I'm old school. I picture the kind the size of your refrigerator with the big reels on it, you know, like a big reel-to-reel. Those kind, which couldn't store a fraction of what you could store in your phone, but that's beside the point. But I picture a big room full of computers that store everything, you know. And I figure that's what the human brain is like, but I think mine's more like a big giant garbage can, because I remember all kinds of stuff that it just doesn't seem pertinent, you know what I mean? Like, why would I remember Sungai, Mungai, Alabala, Bungai, Chickalicalangai, see? Why would I remember that? Or, you know, Charlie Chaplin's leading lady, Edna Purviance. I mean, like, really, you know? Like my son always says, Dad, it's not that you remember it, it's why do you remember it? I don't know, son. And yet, Linda will say, well, don't forget this Saturday we have to go pick up so-and-so from the ferry terminal. I'm like, what? You know, I told you that last week. Oh yeah, you did, Toby. And sometimes I remember, and sometimes I just say, oh yeah, you did. Because I didn't remember. So anyway. Okay, my friends, I'm going to say sayonara. I want to thank you for tuning in. Stay amazing out there in the land of awesome. You want a shout out, hit me up. Be prepared to wait about 10 days, 2 weeks, okay? But you will get it. If you don't hear it after a couple weeks, get back to me, okay? Comments, I love your comments. I read them all. I do my best to answer them all, okay? So you take care, my friends. Stay amazing out there in the land of awesome, and we'll see you next time.